Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm John Barban, and with me is Geoff Dover, and let's talk football.
We're talking college coaches right now. There's been a lot of talk about in terms of, who would be a good coach? Do you want an up-and-coming type of coach? Do you need someone that's won a championship before or who's been at least on a staff of been on a championship? And would that determine, is that how you rank coaches? And which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I'm wearing the Texas shirt today because for me, regardless if he's been on a previous staff that's won a championship, I think Texas with Sarkisian is primed for the next first-time national championship head coach. Now, he was on one of the Bama staffs that won it. So he's got obviously experience seeing it go all the way. And we could talk about Saban's coaching tree, like Kirby, but so many people, Lanning, have all come out of that who've all been there to see it go all the way. So all the great coaches have extensive coaching trees. So to me, it's the obvious one is Sarkisian, whether or not he's been on a team where as an assistant coach that's won the championship. Now he obviously he got to the semifinals twice now. I think he lost to Washington, and then he also lost to the eventual champs last year too. So he's like on the doorstep, and he's seen the whole thing happen. So he knows how to make it happen. And I'm sure he's looking at his roster and his program and his resources and seeing, this is it. Like everything we need is right here. I just gotta finish the job here.
Yeah, no, it's interesting to bring up the experience part being on the different staff. For a long time, most of Saban's coaches that went on to be head coaches didn't do super great. Like, and they had a bad record against him specifically. So it wasn't just so much like learn from him and then go do it yourself otherwise. Now, most famously, that did work out with Kirby Smart, right? So that's been one of the few times where they've actually out-recruited Alabama, I think, a couple of times you could say. And it's how dominant they've been that time. Like that's been a coach from that tree that's done really well. If I'm going to play the same game as you and who's someone that's been on a staff that I think is like next up, I'm going to say Lanning at Oregon. I think Oregon could be really good. I don't know if their quarterback is it for this year in terms of like put him in the national championship. Although I didn't think that about Ohio State's quarterback last year, right? So he was more of a, I don't want to say placeholder. People are going to hate that, but in terms of the talent that they had, it wasn't as a dynamic offense as I thought it was going to be. So, but anyway, so I think Lanning is, and again, it's seen it from a dominating type program. And I've been really impressed with Lanning's run. How I remember when they got blown out by Clemson. I think it was like his first game. It was like 50-7 or something. Or that might've been Georgia. And it was just like, it was
Georgia. It was Georgia.
Yes, it was Georgia. And they seemed really far away. And he's really pulled them up since then, and I think they're an up and coming one too.
Yeah, and they're both starting quarterbacks that are going to be their first year starting. So I think
a little bit different with the second coming of Arch Manning, but it's
right. But Dante Moore's supposed to be really good.
Yeah,
so we'll see. But those are two good ones that came off the Saban coaching tree. And you're right, Smart I think is the only one who actually has beaten Saban.
Yeah.
Out of that coaching tree, I think at all, if not regular season, for sure in the postseason.
It's
I don't
a
think
crazy lopsided record.
Yeah, and now that he's retired, none of them will ever have a chance. Like that's it. Kirby's the only one who got him. But Kirby, you could say, has taken up the mantle as probably running the most success. Like he might be, if there is a pinnacle right now, it's probably him at Georgia.
Right.
Currently I mean, Ryan Day's now nipping at his heels if he can put one more together.
Yeah.
But Kirby's for sure, I'd say, taking the place of the Saban Bama as you could argue the dominant program in the last 5 years.
So your position is that winning a championship, either as a head coach or being on a staff of a national championship, is an important thing for a head coach, or like is a
no, that's not my position. This is just a discussion we're having. Is it necessary? But then you've got someone like Dabo Swinney who proves it isn't. And the run he's gone on at Clemson, it's not like he inherited a dominant program.
No.
Clemson has resources, and they have been good in the past. They won it in 82, something like that. So, and many other coaches, like Urban Meyer's always said, like when he was up there as an analyst, he's like, I can see why they keep taking our players from Florida. Like this a sleeping giant waiting. If someone puts it together here at Clemson, it will become what it became with Sweeney. So Sweeney,
and that was crazy too. That was a risky hire. He was like the wide receivers coach or something, and they promoted him to head coach. Like that
was a great recruiter.
Yeah, but I mean, but still, like that's a big, like if someone like Texas A&M or something like promoted a wide receivers coach to head coach or something, like that would be like big news, you know, like that was a big deal.
I think there was a big contingent of fans and boosters who didn't like the hire. But I mean, it goes to show you how much they know. Yeah, like they just went on a crazy run there. And so he was on, as a player, he was on the 92 Bama championship team, but he never, and then he was a grad assistant and then an assistant coach there for a while, but never on a team that went all the way.
Right.
But at least he was on a team as a player that went all the way. But regardless, obviously you don't need to be a coach on a staff that's taken a team all the way, no matter if you're a position coach, GA, whatever, coordinator, to bring a team to the top like Sweeney did. And Sweeney hasn't even been like a coordinator. He's only been a position coach. So I don't even think getting to the coordinator ranks matters. It clearly doesn't if someone like him can turn a program into such a powerhouse.
I mean, I think he's the outlier. I mean, most of the time it's an offensive or defensive coordinator who does a really good job and then gets promoted. Right. So, but yeah, I think what I'm always struck with when we struck by, and you brought it up, was the number of coaches that have actually won the national championship, right? So what is in the active NCAA right now, how many coaches have won a championship?
I think there's 3.
3 total out of
current head coaches. There's
over 100
Sweeney,
D1 programs.
Ryan Day, and only because he just won it. Otherwise it was 2.
Yeah.
Dabo Sweeney, Ryan Day, and Kirby Smart.
Jeez.
Now Mac Brown retired. Otherwise, Mac Brown was still lingering, so he's out. Right after Harbaugh won it, he left. Urban Meyer retired. Nick Saban just left. So all of the ones where you're like, oh, but what about this guy? Oh yeah, he's gone. And then you think, what about this guy? He's at Les Miles isn't around. Ed Orgeron, I don't think's coaching anywhere anymore.
Yeah, that's surprising. What I was struck by thinking about this was how many coaches have won a national championship that were fired soon after, right? Because there's Gene Chizik, I think, was with the Auburn, right? And Orgeron at LSU, and I'm pretty sure Les Miles went pretty soon after, and Mac Brown, I don't know how much longer he was. It might have been a few years, but like there was winning a national championship is not
a guaranteed for long-term employment.
No, like
which
not
is
even
crazy.
a little bit. Yes.
Yeah.
So considering that there's only 3 now active coaches with it, it sort of makes sense. But man, that's really, it's not what I thought. There'd be more of a, like you said, more of a leeway, or if you've done it, then they could do it again. And I don't know. It's really interesting it's so fickle.
Yeah. It's like Ed Orgeron with that LSU team it was just a moment in time. I guess they just didn't believe he really was much to do with that as far as like, yes, amazing talent, but somehow I guess the administration must have assumed they won in spite of Orgeron. Otherwise, why wouldn't you keep him? I mean, he was the most dominant team probably in the last 20 years.
Yeah, it was amazing. And a lot of those pieces were in place before. Like, I don't think he recruited Joe Burrow, or I don't think he recruited Jamar Chase, but I mean, it's just still surprising how often, but it was the same thing in Auburn too. Like Cam Newton was amazing, and it was, but it's, so there's few people that have it. And even if you do have it, it doesn't mean it's the job security that you think would come along with it.
So you think Lanning is more likely than Sarkisian, or he's just one of the ones you think is likely in the next 5 years to win a championship as a first timer?
Yeah, I'd put him in the same tier as Sarkisian. I think there's similar odds in my estimation.
Yeah.
I mean, I think Texas is a little bit harder go of it coming out of the SEC, but they get more teams in the playoff. But I think Oregon but they're going to get a lot of teams in it too, so.
Yeah, who does have the more straight path? I guess the SEC head-to-head versus Oregon's, whatever Oregon will be up against in the Big Ten, you'd say maybe the SEC's going to throw more roadblocks at Texas.
I mean, it's hard. I mean, yes, but it depends on strength of schedule, which is something else we're going to talk about in an upcoming episode. But I mean, I think that it's really, and I think even if there's a path to not relative least resistance, but an easier way, one team over another, I think that's going to change again in the next year when they're going to rejig the championship and the playoff run and who can qualify for it and stuff too. So I don't even, because before you would say something like the Pac-12 or the Big Ten before it expanded, like, because there's just less ranked teams you'd play on average, but it's not like that now. And this is going to change again soon.
Do you think Franklin has any shot with Penn State?
Yeah,
I mean, this year everyone's picking them to be way up there just because I think Aller's coming back and a lot of players are coming back.
Both starting running backs, those guys are fantastic. Yeah, we talked about this on an earlier show. I mean, I think that I don't have a lot of faith in them, and I don't have a really good reason why. I mean, it's that Drew Aller is not, it hasn't looked like a dynamic passing attack. And when you have that good running backs and a real game changer at tight end, and the passing game really looked pedestrian. And the time where they had to have it passing is when he threw interceptions, and it really had no chance of moving it down the field. But it's I don't know. I don't. So I'm worried about that. But again, overall talent is on the team is outstanding. Like, they're going to be in around 10 wins, you know.
Yeah,
so
as usual.
Yeah. So
they had one of the highest drafted defensive players, but again, that it didn't seem to matter last year. And when push came to shove at the end of the year, that defense didn't hold up. So
no, I mean, the defense was good. It's just the offense could not move it when they needed to against a good defense. So I mean, and if they have, like, if they play a Boise or an Arizona State, you know, in the first round of the playoffs or something, that a team like that increases the chances of them moving further along, right? So, but
yeah, I think if they don't sort out a more dynamic offense, I don't think they can.
It would have
that's
to be,
always been the problem.
I know, and
it would not pass the ball.
No, and it would have to be like a Michigan-Ohio State game where it's like 13-7, where it's like, you know, that they could win a game like that. But that's the other team just sort of losing it for a bit and deciding not to go at it a different way. I still don't understand what happened in that game.
So other coaches on my list that I think have a chance, and there's one that sticks out to me that I don't know why I don't know what's wrong with it, is Lincoln Riley.
Yep.
Like, he's been
Well, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. It's called defense.
Yeah.
That's what it's been. He said
he's got the opposite problem that Penn State has. Yeah. Right?
Yes. Very good comparison. He's got Heisman caliber QBs, multiple ones, right? And a defense that isn't strong enough to, you know, traditionally to win against good playoff teams. So,
well, I mean,
who's the guy at Miami?
Mario Cristobal.
Was he on a staff at one point? I think he was too.
He won a championship as a player at Miami, and he's been on a Bama staff that's gone all the way.
Yeah, he'd probably be in the mix too. I think that it
feels like he's got to be somewhere in the mix there. I mean, Miami. We watched Miami completely dominate college football.
Yes,
we've seen it. That's one of the programs. Yeah, you always hear, I don't know, like Josh Payton, some of these other guys talking about, oh, can you win at that program? I always wondered what that meant, but when you stop and think about it, there's certain programs that if the right coach is there, the resources are there, the boosters are there, whatever it is quote unquote there to make it happen. Yeah. And Miami's one of them. Yeah. If you're too young to have seen it, but they were completely unstoppable in their heyday. So
yeah, and that was another thing that we've listened to, the Cover 3. They do a really good job, and they talked about the blue chip ratio. Like, you have to have a certain number on your roster, and I think Miami's in that category too, right? That'd be part of it. They were 10-3 last year. Like, you're not far away from cracking it at that point. You know, and
there's got to be. I end up down rabbit holes watching those like videos of the college facilities, the football.
Oh yeah,
and when I can see how easy it is to recruit. When you walk through the room with all the championships, you're like, oh yeah. Like not very many of them can show you that. No. And like recently, I don't mean one from 70 years ago. I mean, like you can show Miami's like in the last 20 years, there's some trophies right there. So
yeah, in the player's lifetime, they've won one, which is
they might have been pretty young and not really watched it
in their lifetime. No,
close enough. Close enough.
But no,
I don't have to go back to the 60s or the 50s for some of these for a place like Miami. So I got a little list of coaches here. First of all, the Bama coaching tree is absurd for the current head coaches who've been involved at some point, either as a coordinator or a position coach on the Bama run. So here's some of the ones from that era: Billy Napier, Dan Lanning, Lane Kiffin, obviously, Brent Key at Georgia Tech. Sarkisian, obviously. Kurt Signetti,
Yeah,
he was part
Indiana.
of it. And Mario Cristobal, Mike Loxley at Maryland.
Oh, sure.
Maybe I don't know if he's going to put anything together at Maryland, but he's got that. So all of those are head coaches right now who've been on a Bama championship team in some of that Saban era.
Wow.
So you could argue that all of those coaches can tell you, I know what it's like. I know what it takes. I've seen it. I've been there. I coached on a team under Saban all the way to the end. I know what it feels like to get all the way to the end. So it's just at least something that those administrations who have someone like Napier or Signetti be like, oh, no, that guy, he knows what it's like to win a championship. Like he's seen it. So not saying it's necessary, but it's interesting when you reframe the coaches that are around like that. So
how about Elko? Where was he from? I don't know what tree he came from.
I don't have him here as being on a national championship team. But so who's an interesting one? Josh Heupel was the quarterback at Oklahoma when they won the national championship. So he's been there as a quarterback, right?
Yeah.
Eli Drinkwitz was on the Auburn
really?
one. Yeah.
Oh, very good.
Sam Pittman was at Georgia when they won. Dave Aranda was at LSU when they won.
Okay.
Sharon Moore, obviously at Michigan. He's the most recent, I was just there. Now I have the team. Luke Fickell was at Ohio State when they won.
Yep.
Which is that's we got to do a whole episode on what the hell's going on at Wisconsin. I thought that was going to be a home run hire. That is clearly not working out right now.
Not right now. And the suspensions or whatever happened came out right. Wasn't good. So there was Wisconsin is.
I didn't even hear about that.
Impermissible calls to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I don't know. How is anything? There are no rules anymore. How is any of this shit?
I guess
Jesus
it was
Christ.
at this day and age where people are making no, I don't want to play unless they get more than $2 million. They're like, you made too many phone calls. It was, So Wisconsin placed on 1 year probation, fined $25,000 after 9 coaches and staffers made impermissible phone calls to recruits in 2023. So it's former defensive line coach Greg Scruggs and former director of player personnel Max Steinecker.
I mean, the NCAA just has to go away.
And that's from an ESPN article.
So who else? Shane Beamer.
Ooh, where was he?
He was at Georgia when they won one of the championships. Okay. Greg Schiano was at Ohio State, right? Remember, he was in the running for a couple of head coaching jobs there of a big programs, and then it sort of diverted him to Rutgers, which he's one of those ones that just fits. He should just stay at Rutgers.
Fits really well there.
Yeah. And then Tony Elliott and Brent Venables both were on Clemson, and they're head coaching right now. So those are the coaches that and Mark Stoops. He was on the Miami championship team at 2001. And I think maybe OU at 2000. Yeah. So so those are your coaches, your kind of high profile programs and coaches that have won a national championship that are currently at another program. But I wouldn't say all of those guys have the resources to get there, but a bunch of them do.
Yeah. I think that being assistant on more than one, like an assistant in Alabama when they won, then assistant at Clemson when they won, or something like that, I would argue as being more valuable because then you could see it done in maybe 2 different ways. But yeah, there's a lot of.
So you know what? I made this
championship as head coach. So.
It's true. I made this list kind of a while ago. Since then, Dan Mullen's been hired by UNLV, so that's another one.
Yep.
Right. So Florida. He was at Florida. I don't think UNLV's got a path to the championship, but it makes them must-watch TV.
Yeah. He's really. There was another good article on ESPN about that. He's really embracing it out there. He really wants to bring the Running Rebels back, which was always known for the basketball team when they were heyday in the 90s, to make it with the football again. It was a really good fit with Mississippi State there. And it wasn't necessarily a bad fit at Florida, but I think it's just, it feels really different when you're at a football, like pressure cooker, like that type situation. So I think UNLV is a great fit for them. Yeah. So I think they're going to do very well there.
Yeah. They're going to be, I'm going to have fun watching them. Oh, you know what? I got another one here. Fran Brown.
Yeah, at Syracuse.
He was on a Georgia staff that won.
Oh, really? So, interesting. Yeah.
And then if you want to really stretch,
10 wins last year in his first year.
Yeah, I like him. I like his attitude. And the last one, Manny Diaz was a graduate assistant, I think, at FSU when they won.
Okay.
So that's what my notes say here. So unless I got my note wrong, so those are the ones that have seen it at some level.
Mhm.
Now, I didn't go as far as to get to all of the ones who've been players who've won a national championship. I think Heupel and Cristobal are the only ones that I came up with. Maybe there's another one in there, but it's not common that a head coach, you don't need to have been on a national championship winning team to. There's no credential there to be a head coach. It's not.
No,
it's not that common.
No. Well, it'd be impossible to. Otherwise, you're interviewing three people, the same three people for the next year. So
yeah, right. Yeah. Anyways, so I don't know. What is anybody else that sticks out that you think is
the only other thing that
this
stuck
list?
out is why I'm wearing the shirt today was the X factor of Bill Belichick. So I think it's won many championships, not at the college level, but at another level that it's awfully popular. So I'm dying to see what happens there. I've talked to a couple people from UNC, and they feel like it could go either direction. This could be like a real home run of a setup, or it could be a complete disaster. But it's every recruit going in knows that you can make the argument that he's the best coach of all time, right?
Yep.
In the NFL, and you get to be coached by him at that school, and what does that mean? So it's a really interesting setup they have there, and it's gonna be interesting to see what they do this year.
So if it goes okay, so let's stick on the Carolina thing for the last bit here. If it goes well, what's the actual ceiling at North Carolina? Like an ACC championship?
Yeah, I don't know.
And a shot at the playoffs, but not a realistic shot, because I don't think they have the blue chip ratio. If we're going to consider that like legitimately the limit.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that in looking back at it, it felt like to me that first game against TCU is surprisingly important, because I feel like that's one that both teams have circled on the schedule as a win. And then there's a lot of coin flip games after that. So just pulling up the North Carolina schedule, first one they host TCU, and then it's the Charlotte and then Richmond. So they should win those. At UCF, who know, like I feel like that's a coin flip.
It's coin flip.
Host Clemson, probably going to lose. At Cal, that was a tougher out last year. Don't know if it's going to be the same this year. Host Virginia, probably going to win. Lost to them last year. At Syracuse, all of a sudden a tough matchup for that one to go on the road. Stanford and Wake, probably winnable. Duke had 10 games last year, won 10 games. So they host Duke, and then at NC State. So a lot of coin flip stuff there.
Yeah.
Couple for sure wins, couple for sure losses. I don't know.
I mean, it's rated as one of the easiest schedules.
Right.
But it's off of last year's performance and all that. But
yeah, no, it is. But I don't know. So new quarterback, new systems, new everything. I don't know. Like that's going to be tough. And TCU, I felt like just because they have a returning quarterback, the teams should be pretty good. Like it's I don't know. TCU
should legitimately be in the running for the Big 12, but kind of everybody in the Big 12 is in the running for the Big 12.
I'm already excited for my bet. I don't know if you recall. So we had an episode a while back where we had crazy early bets, and so we made some. But that was one of the ones I made. I picked TCU over UNC because UNC was favored by 1, I think. Now the line is moved to TCU -2.5, but we got it at UNC like the -1. So
that's how you make money.
TCU +1. So yeah,
that's right.
Then it could even be bigger by the time we actually get into August.
So sticking on the Belichick thing, okay, so he might be limited by the resources at Carolina. What if he was on one of these other teams? Like, what if Belichick was at, like, I don't know, Texas? Would he just go on a run?
I know he reminds me. I mean, that I feel like it would be similar to who's the LSU guy that went from Notre Dame, the coach.
LSU, Notre Dame. What are you talking about?
LSU head coach right now.
LSU head coach right now. Oh yeah, Brian Kelly.
Yeah, because I feel like that's what was sort of a good coach. Sort of hit a ceiling at Notre Dame, and then they're like, well, go to LSU because like that's where you could do it, like with the resources and the things like that. And then I don't know if it hasn't really panned out. It hasn't, so I don't know. I feel like that's the same thing with Belichick. I feel like if you put Sweeney, Dabo somewhere else, like he could recreate this, but I don't know if Belichick's in that position yet, because this could be a disaster year. Like this could be like a 4-8 year or something for them. So
that's an interesting thought. Do you have any reason why you think that, or just? Like why? Because Sweeney came out of nowhere and had no proof he could do it. So if he can do
Yeah,
it
but
there,
at
he can
least
do
he
it
was a
anywhere.
college coach, though. At least,
Oh
like
yeah, I
it
see
was,
what you mean.
you know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the no, it's sort of what we talked about that first the Belichick episode, where it's like he's historically known to hate like the rookies, and he has a real specific system put in place, and a lot
Yeah.
of the same players for a long time, and he had a generational talented quarterback, and I don't, you know, and it doesn't mean he's not a good coach. I don't think he's not going to work out, but I'm like, I could see it not working out. Like
Yeah.
it's or it could be really successful. I think the UNC people have it right. I don't know.
It's a complete coin flip.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be, and no one thinks it's going to be just okay. People think it's going to be good or a
Right.
disaster.
And thank God we're not talking about his girlfriend anymore. So I've had enough of that too.
I've had enough of her. Anyways. All right. Well, I mean, I don't know. You got anything else, or is that a good place to leave this one?
College coaches, not many out there won a national championship. Some people have been some up and coming assistants who are head coaches now, but likely to win, either Lanning or Sarkisian, and then Belichick is the next factor. Who knows?
Who knows? All right, that's a good place to leave it. So for Geoff Dover, I'm John Barban, and that's your Saturday versus Sunday podcast.